Imagine a world teetering on the edge, not from a war we started or a virus we created, but from something entirely unknown, a threat that blindsides us all. We build defenses against what we can see, what we can predict. But what about the things hidden in plain sight, warnings whispered through time, then forgotten? What if the answers to our future, especially a future that feels increasingly uncertain, are not in our science labs or political summits, but tucked away in old dusty manuscripts, texts dismissed as mere myths? This isn't about mainstream prophecies you've heard 1,000 times. This is about what we call Apocrypha's warning. It's the idea that ancient writings, often excluded from official religious canons, hold overlooked warnings about the end times. The word Apocrypha itself comes from Greek, meaning hidden or secret. Historically, these were texts considered valuable by some, but ultimately not accepted into the main Bible or other sacred collections. They were often seen as too strange, too controversial, or just not inspired enough. But what if their exclusion wasn't just about theology, but about something more? What if they contained truths too unsettling, too powerful for the world to handle? When we talk about the apocalypse, most people think of the Book of Revelation, fire and brimstone, a clear battle between good and evil. That's one narrative, and a powerful one. But what if there are other narratives, other warnings, that offer a different lens, a deeper understanding of what end times could truly mean? This video isn't going to rehash what you already know. We're diving deep into those lesser-known ancient texts, the ones that didn't make the cut, to see what they say about humanity's ultimate fate. The core question isn't just what these texts say, but why they were left out. What secrets did they hold that the mainstream narratives omitted or even actively suppressed? Were they too radical? Did they challenge established power structures? Or did they simply contain information that wasn't ready to be understood until now? Their controversial nature and the very act of their exclusion hint at a profound impact on our modern understanding of the apocalypse, an impact we're just beginning to uncover. The Book of Enoch paints a vivid, often terrifying picture of cosmic judgment. It talks about watchers, a group of angels who descended to earth not to help humanity but to interfere. They lusted after human women, took them as wives, and fathered giant offspring called Nephilim. More than that, these watchers taught humanity forbidden knowledge: metallurgy, cosmetics, warfare, even astrology. This wasn't just about sex, it was about corrupting humanity with technology and secrets they weren't ready for. Enoch describes a great flood, not just as a punishment for human wickedness, but specifically for the sins of these watchers and their giant children. It goes beyond the simple story in Genesis, detailing angelic rebellion, divine punishments, and a complex celestial hierarchy. It sets out specific timelines for judgment, describing a cyclical history of creation, corruption, and eventual renewal. It even talks about spirits trapped in the earth until a final judgment. The Watchers' forbidden knowledge, their teaching of secrets that led to human corruption and violence, is a recurring theme. It makes you wonder, what if the warnings embedded in Enoch aren't just about ancient angels, but about the dangers of knowledge without wisdom, technology without ethics? What if the fallen angels are a metaphor for the destructive potential within humanity itself, once unlocked by forbidden insights? This text suggests a cosmic order, a divine plan that, when disrupted, leads to cataclysm. It's a powerful, unsettling narrative that offers a very different perspective on why the world might end and who or what is truly responsible. But Enoch isn't the only forgotten text with dire warnings. The Book of Jubilees, for example, gives us another look at early human history, reinterpreting Genesis with a strong emphasis on divine judgment and cyclical time. It lays out a detailed calendar, showing how the world is divided into periods, or jubilees, each with its own set of events and prophecies. What's striking about Jubilees is its focus on the corruption of humanity and the earth itself. It describes how sins pile up, leading to a point where God has to step in and cleanse everything. The text talks about how humans deviate from the divine law, not just in their actions, but in their very understanding of time and festivals. If people ignore the true calendrical system, it's a sign of deep spiritual sickness, a precursor to judgment. It's like a cosmic clock, and if humanity messes with the gears, disaster is bound to follow. The book details how the earth itself groans under the weight of human sin, almost as if the planet is a living entity reacting to our choices. This isn't just about God's anger, it's about a natural consequence of breaking cosmic laws. Then there's the Apocalypse of Abraham, a text that plunges us into Abraham's vivid visions of cosmic destruction and the ultimate fate of souls. It's a powerful, almost psychedelic journey where Abraham is shown the structure of heaven and hell, the past and the future. What stands out here is the detailed description of a future divine intervention, a cleansing fire that will sweep the world, purifying it of evil. Abraham isn't just a prophet, he's a visionary, chosen to receive these deep, often disturbing secrets directly from God. He sees the idols of his time and how they represent the spiritual blindness that will eventually lead to widespread destruction. The text emphasizes that humanity, left to its own devices, will always stray, and that a powerful, almost violent act of divine love is needed to set things right. It paints a picture of a world so steeped in corruption that only a complete reset can save it. Moving on, the testaments of the 12 patriarchs offer a different kind of warning. These are ethical and moral wills from Jacob's sons, each recounting their own lives, sins, and prophecies for their descendants. They focus on the idea that societal decay, a breakdown of moral fiber, is a direct path to impending judgment. Each patriarch warns against specific transgressions, envy, lust, deceit, anger, and foretells the consequences for future generations if these vices are not overcome. For instance, Judah warns against greed and fornication, while Levi speaks of the corruption of the priesthood. The overarching message is that humanity's downfall isn't just an external event, but an internal collapse of ethics and morality. These texts also introduce a concept of a coming Messiah figure, but often with a different emphasis than what we find in the canonical Gospels. This Messiah isn't just a savior. He's often portrayed as a powerful judge who will restore true righteousness and purify the world. Across these texts, whether it's Enoch, Jubilees, Abraham, or the Patriarchs, some common threads emerge. Divine judgment is a constant, as is the idea of humanity's corruption. Cosmic cataclysms, the influence of spiritual entities, and the ultimate restoration of a righteous world are all recurring themes. But they also offer unique perspectives. While canonical books like Revelation often focus on a single dramatic end, these apocryphal texts suggest more cyclical patterns or highlight the internal moral failures as the root cause of external disaster. They talk a lot about hidden knowledge, suggesting that certain truths were meant to be kept secret or were only revealed to select individuals. This idea of secret wisdom and the danger of that wisdom falling into the wrong hands might be one reason why these texts were considered dangerous or even heretical by early religious authorities. The process of canonization, of deciding which books made it into the Bible, was complex. It wasn't just about divine inspiration. It involved theological debates, political maneuvering, and social considerations. Texts that challenged established doctrines or presented alternative histories were often excluded. Some were seen as too fantastical, others too politically charged. The very act of labeling them apocryphal or pseudepigrapha, meaning hidden or falsely attributed, serve to marginalize them, to push them to the fringes of accepted belief, but their exclusion doesn't mean they don't hold valuable insights. In fact, their very marginalization might be why they still speak so powerfully to us today, offering a glimpse into what might have been lost, or perhaps what was deliberately hidden. Now let's take these ancient warnings and connect them to our current time. If we were to look at these texts through a modern lens, what urgent messages might they hold for our near future, especially around the year 2025? It's not about making a direct prediction, but about seeing how these old narratives can shed light on present-day worries. Think about themes like environmental degradation. The Book of Jubilees talks about the earth being defiled by human actions, requiring a divine cleansing. Today, we see our planet struggling with pollution, climate change, and resource depletion. Could these be the modern manifestations of that ancient warning, a sign that we are failing to be good stewards of the world? Similarly, the corruption of humanity, a constant theme from Enoch to the Patriarchs, resonates with our societal moral collapse. We see a rise in dishonesty, a breakdown of community, and a focus on self-interest over collective well-being. These issues across different cultures and nations mirror the internal decay that the testaments of the 12 patriarchs warned would lead to judgment. Political instability is another area where these texts seem to offer a chilling reflection. The constant power struggles, the rise of authoritarianism, and the fracturing of societies along ideological lines could be seen as the wars and rumors of wars that many apocalyptic traditions speak of. The idea of spiritual entities influencing human affairs, as seen with Enoch's watchers, could be reinterpreted as the subtle, often unseen forces that manipulate public opinion and sow discord. And what about technological overreach? The watchers in the Book of Enoch shared forbidden knowledge that led to human corruption. While ancient, this concept can be applied to our rapid technological advancements. We create tools with immense power, AI, advanced weaponry, genetic engineering, often without fully understanding the ethical implications or the long-term consequences. Is it possible that our pursuit of knowledge without wisdom, our drive to push boundaries without moral grounding, is a modern form of that forbidden knowledge, leading us down a path of self-destruction? The year 2025, a common focal point for modern apocalyptic thought in various online communities and speculative works, becomes a symbol, a mental marker, for when these converging trends might reach a critical point. The ancient texts don't give us a date, but they highlight the conditions that precede upheaval. It's important to remember that these texts offer different perspectives on humanity's fate. They are not meant to induce fear, but rather to prompt reflection. They invite us to consider our choices, both as individuals and as a society. The power of these narratives lies in their ability to make us think about our trajectory. How we interpret these apocalyptic warnings says more about our own era than it does about the ancient authors. Every generation finds its own relevance in these stories. During times of plague, people saw pestilence. During wars, they saw conflict. In our time, with environmental crises and global instability, we see those warnings reflected in our current events. So, these apocryphal texts serve as a warning, not just of a potential physical destruction, but more profoundly of a spiritual and moral decline that can precede any external catastrophe. They urge us to examine our inner lives, our collective ethics, and our shared responsibilities to one another and to the planet. Are we living in a way that honors the sanctity of life and the wisdom of the past? Are these ancient warnings simply echoes of a forgotten past, or are they timeless insights into the challenges humanity perpetually faces, perhaps even more acutely in 2025 and beyond? I encourage you to research these texts further. Dive into the Book of Enoch, Jubilees, or the Testaments of the 12 Patriarchs. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think these ancient warnings mean for us today? And don't forget to subscribe for more content on hidden histories and forgotten prophecies. The question of whether these ancient warnings are just echoes or timeless insights is one that forces us to look closely at our present. We've talked about how environmental decay, societal breakdown, and political chaos could be seen through the lens of these old texts. But there's another layer to this interpretation, one that often gets overlooked: the personal apocalypse. Many of these apocryphal writings don't just speak of global events. They also delve into the individual's journey, the internal struggles, and the moral choices that shape a person's destiny. Consider the emphasis in texts like the testaments of the 12 Patriarchs on personal virtue and the consequences of sin. While they discuss the downfall of nations, they often frame it as a direct result of individual and collective moral failures. This suggests that the apocalypse isn't just something that happens to us, but something that can be brought about by us through our daily actions and decisions. If we interpret the warnings for 2025 in this light, it's not just about a cataclysmic event, but about a critical period where individual choices could collectively tip the balance. Are we choosing compassion or indifference? Are we pursuing wisdom or fleeting pleasures? These ancient texts imply that these personal battles are just as crucial as any geopolitical conflict. The concept of hidden knowledge in the apocryphal texts also applies here. It's not just about secret prophecies, but about a deeper understanding of ourselves and our place in the cosmos. The Watcher's forbidden knowledge in Enoch wasn't inherently evil. It became evil because of how it was used and the intentions behind its dissemination. Similarly, our modern knowledge, our science, our technology holds immense potential for good or ill. The warning isn't to stop learning, but to learn wisely, to integrate ethical considerations into every discovery and innovation. This internal wisdom, or lack thereof, could be the real apocalypse event we are heading towards in a year like 2025. It's a year often highlighted in modern speculative fiction and online theories as a potential turning point, not because of a specific prophecy, but because of the acceleration of current trends. So, when these texts speak of judgment, it's not necessarily a divine figure smiting us from above. It could be the natural consequence of our collective choices, amplified by our advanced capabilities. If we continue to degrade our environment, the judgment is the climate crisis. If we continue to foster social division, the judgment is civil unrest. The cleansing of the world, described in the Apocalypse of Abraham, might not be a miraculous intervention, but a painful, necessary recalibration brought on by humanity's own hand. The power of these narratives, therefore, isn't in predicting a date or a specific event. Their power lies in their timeless ability to hold a mirror up to humanity. They ask us to confront our flaws, to question our motivations, and to consider the long-term impact of our short-term gains. The year 2025 in this context becomes less about a fixed prophecy and more about a heightened awareness, a call to examine if we are truly on a sustainable path, both externally and internally. They are not just stories about the end of the world, but about the constant choices that lead to its renewal or its decay. The interpretation is fluid, adapting to the anxieties and hopes of each generation. For us, in our current climate of rapid change and uncertainty, these texts offer a framework for understanding the deeper currents beneath the surface of daily news. They invite us to look beyond immediate headlines and consider the spiritual and moral health of our civilization. Are we prepared for the challenges that lie ahead, not just technologically, but ethically and spiritually? The apocryphal warnings suggest that this inner preparedness is our most vital defense. They are less about what will happen and more about what kind of people we need to be to face whatever comes. The Apocalypse of Adam, another fascinating text, pulls back the curtain on a different kind of ending. It paints a picture of humanity's knowledge being stolen or hidden, replaced by ignorance and false teachings. Adam, in this text, warns his son Seth about a coming flood, not just of water, but of deception. This isn't just about a physical catastrophe, it's a spiritual one, where truth is obscured and people are led astray. For 2025, this warning resonates deeply. We live in an age of information overload, where misinformation spreads faster than truth. Are we, in a sense, experiencing a modern-day flood of deception, making it harder to discern what is real and what is not? The text suggests that only a select few, those who hold on to Adam's true knowledge, will be saved from this deluge of lies. It asks us to consider what foundational truths we are holding on to, and if they are strong enough to withstand the currents of modern manipulation. Then there's the secret Book of John, which introduces a complex cosmology involving emanations, aeons, and a flawed creator god, the demiurge. This text describes a cosmic struggle between light and darkness, between true spiritual knowledge and the material world's illusions. The apocalypse here isn't a single event, but an ongoing process of revealing hidden truths and overcoming the demiurge's misguided creation. The warning for 2025 from this perspective isn't about an external threat, but an internal awakening. It's about recognizing the spiritual traps within the material world, the systems that keep us from true enlightenment. Are we, as a society, too caught up in the illusions of consumerism, power, and fleeting desires, as if trapped in the demiurge's flawed creation? This text suggests that the real end times for an individual might be the moment they break free from these illusions, leading to a personal and collective transformation. The year 2025, then, could be seen as a period where these illusions become harder to maintain, pushing more people towards seeking deeper truths. The Odes of Solomon, though less overtly apocalyptic, carry a message of spiritual renewal and the coming of a Messiah figure who brings salvation through knowledge and love. Its warnings are more subtle, embedded in the contrast between those who embrace divine wisdom and those who remain in darkness. The apocalypse, in this context, is the triumph of light over shadow, a gradual process rather than a sudden cataclysm. For 2025, this text offers a hopeful counterpoint. While other texts warn of destruction, the Odes of Solomon point towards an opportunity for spiritual growth and collective upliftment. It suggests that even amidst potential chaos, there will be those who find solace and purpose in a deeper connection to the divine, guiding others towards a path of healing and restoration. The warning here is to not lose sight of hope, to actively seek out and embody the principles of love and wisdom, especially when faced with societal challenges. It implies that the end might also be a new beginning, shaped by human spiritual effort. These texts, when viewed together, offer a mosaic of apocalyptic thought that goes beyond simple predictions of doom. They delve into the spiritual, psychological, and moral dimensions of humanity's journey. They suggest that the apocalypse is not just a singular external event, but a series of interconnected challenges and transformations, both individual and collective. The year 2025, or any specific moment in time, becomes a focal point for these ancient warnings to resurface, prompting us to examine our current trajectory. These texts compel us to ask, are we spiritually prepared for what's to come? Have we listened to the whispers of ancient wisdom, or are we too entrenched in our modern ways to hear their cautionary tales? The true power of these apocryphal warnings lies in their ability to provoke self-reflection, to make us consider the deeper meanings behind the headlines, and to perhaps, just perhaps, steer us towards a more enlightened future. They are not about fear-mongering, but about fostering a deeper understanding of our place in the cosmic order. The true power of these apocryphal warnings lies in their ability to provoke self-reflection, to make us consider the deeper meanings behind the headlines, and to perhaps, just perhaps, steer us towards a more enlightened future. They are not about fear-mongering, but about fostering a deeper understanding of our place in the cosmic order. So, if we take these layers of ancient wisdom, these diverse warnings from texts often pushed aside, what do they really tell us about 2025? It's not about predicting a specific date for an asteroid strike or a sudden global war. That's too simple. The apocryphal texts paint a picture that is much more nuanced, much more about internal states and societal trends than about calendar dates. They suggest that the end times are less about a single cataclysm and more about a culmination of choices, both individual and collective. Let's look at the patterns. Many of these texts, from Enoch to the Dead Sea Scrolls, talk about a profound moral decay. They describe societies where justice is twisted, where the powerful oppress the weak, and where spiritual values are forgotten in favor of material gain. When we look at our world today, especially heading into 2025, can we honestly say we don't see echoes of this? The growing wealth gap, the political polarization, the constant stream of information that often blurs truth and lies. These are the modern manifestations of the ancient warnings about societal corruption. The Watcher's forbidden knowledge in our context could be seen as unchecked technological advancement without ethical grounding, leading to surveillance states, AI that manipulates, or bioengineering without a moral compass. These are the kinds of developments that, if not handled carefully, could lead to a world that looks eerily similar to the dysfunctional societies described in these old texts. Then there's the theme of environmental destruction. The Book of Jubilees, for example, speaks of the earth being defiled by human actions, leading to divine judgment. Today, climate change is no longer a distant threat. It's a present reality. Extreme weather events, resource depletion, and pollution are changing our planet at an alarming rate. If ancient texts warned that the earth itself would react to humanity's transgressions, then our current ecological crisis could be seen as the planet's response to our lack of stewardship. The year 2025 could be a tipping point, a time when these environmental impacts become undeniable, forcing a reckoning that the apocryphal writers seem to foresee. The Gnostic texts add another layer, the warning against spiritual blindness. They tell us about being trapped in an illusion, a material world that distracts us from true knowledge. In our hyper-connected, consumer-driven world, it's easy to feel constantly distracted, bombarded by superficial information and desires. Are we, in 2025, more spiritually adrift than ever, lost in the demiurge's creation, unable to see beyond the surface? These texts would suggest that the real crisis isn't just physical, but a profound spiritual disconnect, a forgetting of our deeper purpose. The apocalypse then becomes the breaking of these illusions, a painful but necessary awakening. So, what's the takeaway for us in 2025? These apocryphal warnings aren't about fear-mongering. They are not telling us to build bunkers and wait for the end. Instead, they are profound calls to self-reflection and collective responsibility. They challenge us to look at the moral fabric of our society, the ethics behind our technology, and our relationship with the natural world. They ask us if we are spiritually awake, or if we are merely stumbling through life, guided by superficial desires. The year 2025, in the context of these ancient texts, isn't a guaranteed date for destruction. Instead, it's a moment for heightened awareness, a period where the consequences of our choices might become clearer and more urgent. It's a time to ask, are we building a world that aligns with ancient wisdom, or are we actively creating the very conditions these texts warned us about? The choice, as always, seems to be ours. These texts are not just historical curiosities, they are mirrors reflecting our present and potential guides for our future. They suggest that the greatest warning isn't about what an external force will do to us, but what we are doing to ourselves and to our world. So, what's the takeaway for us in 2025? These apocryphal warnings aren't about fear-mongering. They are not telling us to build bunkers and wait for the end. Instead, they are profound calls to self-reflection and collective responsibility. They challenge us to look at the moral fabric of our society, the ethics behind our technology, and our relationship with the natural world. They ask us if we are spiritually awake or if we are merely stumbling through life, guided by superficial desires. The year 2025, in the context of these ancient texts, isn't a guaranteed date for destruction. Instead, it's a moment for heightened awareness, a period where the consequences of our choices might become clearer and more urgent. It's a time to ask, are we building a world that aligns with ancient wisdom, or are we actively creating the very conditions these texts warned us about? The choice, as always, seems to be ours. These texts are not just historical curiosities. They are mirrors reflecting our present and potential guides for our future. They suggest that the greatest warning isn't about what an external force will do to us, but what we are doing to ourselves and to our world. These ancient warnings, often dismissed or forgotten, offer a different kind of prophetic insight. They don't give us exact dates or specific events, but they do paint a picture of human nature and its recurring struggles. They suggest that cycles of creation and destruction are often tied to our own moral choices, our greed, our pursuit of power, and our neglect of the spiritual. The idea that 2025 might be a significant year isn't because some calendar marks it for an apocalypse, but because our current trajectory seems to align with the patterns of decline these texts describe. Environmental degradation, for example, is a direct result of human actions. The unchecked consumption, the pollution, the disregard for natural ecosystems, these are all echoes of the defilement of the earth that texts like Jubilees warned about. If the planet is indeed a living entity, as many ancient traditions believed, then its current suffering is a direct response to our actions. This isn't divine wrath in the traditional sense, but the natural consequence of imbalance. Similarly, the societal moral collapse discussed in the testaments of the 12 Patriarchs feels very real today. We see increasing division, a breakdown of trust, and a focus on individual gain over collective well-being. When ancient texts speak of families turning against each other or leaders becoming corrupt, it's hard not to see parallels in our modern political landscape and social media spaces. The forbidden knowledge of the Watchers in our time could be the rapid development of technologies that outpace our ethical frameworks, leading to unforeseen and dangerous consequences for humanity itself. These apocryphal texts, then, serve as a kind of ancient early warning system. They don't predict a single sudden end, but rather a gradual decay that culminates in a necessary reset. The warning is not just of physical destruction, but of a profound spiritual and moral decline that precedes it. They encourage us to look inward, to examine our own lives and our collective society. Are we living in a way that honors creation, or are we contributing to its downfall? The power of these narratives lies in their ability to prompt reflection, not just fear. They challenge us to think about our responsibility, both as individuals and as a global community. They remind us that history, and perhaps prophecy, often repeats itself when humanity fails to learn from its past mistakes. The subjective nature of apocalyptic interpretation means that each era finds its own relevance in these stories. For us, in 2025, the relevance seems to be in the urgent call to address our environmental crisis, our societal divisions, and our spiritual disconnect. So, Are these ancient warnings merely echoes of a forgotten past, interesting historical curiosities with no bearing on our lives? Or are they timeless insights into the challenges humanity perpetually faces, perhaps even more acutely in 2025 and beyond? I believe it's the latter. These texts, once excluded, offer a powerful, alternative lens through which to view our current world. They invite us to consider that the greatest apocalypse might not be a sudden, cataclysmic event, but a slow, creeping erosion of our values, our environment, and our very humanity. It's a call to wake up, to reassess, and to act. What do you think? Have these ancient texts given us a warning we should heed, or are they just old stories? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this deep dive into forgotten wisdom compelling, make sure to hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe for more content that explores the hidden corners of history and prophecy. Your engagement helps us bring these important discussions to a wider audience. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep searching for the wisdom that might just guide us through these complex times.